a continuación doy la palabra al embajador de Nueva Zelanda.
Give the floor to the Ambassador of New Zealand.
23 years ago, I sat behind my ambassador as this council discussed Rwanda. It was the most horrible experience. And as I prepared to come here on my posting this time, I was often asked by my colleagues, what will be your Rwanda moment? I think it's probably arrived. Then, as now, there were credible reports coming in of atrocities being committed. Then, as now, there was someone at the table, a party to the conflict, that had their own view. But in the end, the truth came through. I choose to believe the Secretary-General when he comes to this council and tells us there are credible reports of atrocities being committed. I choose to believe the Secretary-General and the people working for him when they say the issue is not terrorism, but it is barbarism. This was a scenario we had desperately hoped to avoid when we worked with Egypt and Spain to try and get a council resolution to stop the violence and provide orderly access for the United Nations and other humanitarian partners to support the needs of a beleaguered city. We made the same plea in consultations last week when we sort of came to some rough agreement about what we might say to the media, except that the one important point we asked for, the UN must be involved in the access and in the evacuation arrangements, was not allowed to us by Russia. And that is the problem we have today. The UN is not on the ground, the UN is not able to verify, so it's no good coming back and telling us you've done all these reports and investigations yourself, because no one's there.
But all of these efforts were shattered by the irresponsible position of one of the permanent members of this council, the Russian Federation. Here we find the words of Jan Egeland straight to the point. I quote, "Syrian and Russian governments must be held responsible for atrocities committed by militias loyal to President Bashar al-Assad in Aleppo." Is it a fake too? Simply because it's not confirmed by the Russian military, who are, of course, the most trusted people in the world. Mr. President, besides unimaginable sufferings of people fleeing the ongoing onslaught in Aleppo, we also must keep in mind disturbing developments around Palmyra, where the ISIL is again trying to reassert its presence. An ugly picture emerges. While opposition forces are being persistently and mercilessly pounded with all military might assembled by Bashar al-Assad with the help of its allies, the Daesh meets close to no opposition on its way to retake Palmyra. It begs the question, what are the real priorities of Damascus and its allies? When will the same amount of dedication go into fighting ISIL?
Women and children during the ground onslaught, numbering at 82 yesterday alone. What could possibly be the crime of those children, summarily executed by pro-government militias in their own homes? In addition to those mercilessly executed, possibly more than 100 children separated from their families or unaccompanied were reported by UNICEF to be trapped in buildings under heavy attacks in eastern Aleppo. The attacks must stop. The children must be safe and protected. As eastern Aleppo is on the brink of a total destruction, those with leverage must influence parties to the conflict to end its summary execution of civilians in eastern Aleppo. More than 100,000 people are still trapped in eastern Aleppo, and we strongly back the UN's request for an urgent ceasefire to allow for evacuation. The fate of the innocent civilians is the responsibility of the advancing forces. Mr. President, in view of the impending takeover of eastern Aleppo by the Syrian government forces, we expect that the government takes immediate steps to implement the following measures. First, demand its forces exercise maximum restraint and respect the principle of distinction and proportionality and refrain from any targeting, extrajudicial or summary execution, particularly of civilians, especially women and children. Second, facilitate the immediate and unfettered access to humanitarian aid and personnel to all areas under its effective control, and engage on an inclusive political dialogue with a focus on achieving national reconciliation. We believe that these are the minimum steps necessary in order to restore calm and stability which the government itself has cited as one of its crimes.
منذ بدء العمليات في حلب، من فتح معابر آمنة حتى للمسلحين أنفسهم، وتأمين مراكز إيواء، وإصدار قرارات عفو، وتقديم كافة أشكال المساعدات الغذائية والطبية، إنما كان هدفه الأول والأخير هو حماية المدنيين والحرص على حياتهم. ودعوني هنا أظهر لكم بعضا من الصور. هذا ما يقوم به الجيش السوري في حلب. جندي سوري يجعل نفسه سلما لامرأة كي تنزل من السيارة. جندي سوري يجعل من نفسه جسرا لكي تنزل امرأة من عربة أقلتها من منطقة شرق حلب. هذا ما يفعله الجيش السوري. جندي آخر يحمل امرأة مدنية تحاول الهروب من شرق حلب من مناطق الإرهابية، يحملها على كتفيه. جنود سوريين ينظمون توزيع المساعدات الإنسانية على المدنيين بعد أن تركوا شرق حلب. لدي الكثير من الصور ولكنني أعرف أن الوقت لن يسعفنا. السيد الرئيس، إن ما يثير الدهشة أن كافة تقارير مجلسكم قد أشارت إلى وجود عشرات الآلاف من الإرهابيين المرتزقة الأجانب في سوريا من أكثر من 100 دولة، وهو ما أشار إليه مشكورا زميلي المندوب الدائم لمصر. ومع ذلك فإن البعض وكعادته في سعيه لحماية إرهابيين ينكر على الحكومة السورية واجبها في التدقيق في هويات بعض الخارجيين مع المدنيين من بعض أحياء حلب التي كان يسيطر عليها الإرهابيون، وذلك لمنع تسللهم واستئناف